What makes a bad social link? Does the character themselves make it bad? Is it that the story of said social link is poorly handled? Or could it be that the social link offers little to no benefits for completing it? Well, if you were to ask me and other Persona 5 fans, one social link would come to mind. The Devil Arcana Ichiko Oya. Now, Oya's story isn't the worst, and the character herself can be a hit or miss with some people. But what makes Oya's social link so bad is the fact that all it offers is the ability to lower detection rates in palaces, something that's already pretty easy to avoid. So with me being a complete idiot, I thought why not try to beat Persona 5 Royal by only doing Oya's social link. Now, like always, let's go over the rules. Firstly, the only social link I'm allowed to start and finish is Oya's. Now, Persona 5 Royal loves to automatically start social links, and for those, I really have no way of stopping them. And that's not even counting the 3 social links that automatically rank up as you progress through the story, but I'll get into those later. Secondly, I'm only allowed to use personas of the Devil Arcana. I can recruit and fuse other personas, but I'm only allowed to use the devil ones in battle. In addition to those, once I've gotten to rank 3 in Morgana's social link, he will be banned from the party, because it's at this point where he unlocks his first benefit as a party member. And for Sai and Igor's social links, well, they don't really offer anything too groundbreaking other than a couple new persona slots, so I won't give myself a debuff with those. And finally, I must be playing on hard mode. So now, with that all being said, the game starts off with my arrest because, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but anyway, here's where I choose my difficulty and my name before I recount the last few months leading up to my arrest, starting with the day I moved into the attic of a coffee shop. And because I'm a criminal, everyone hates me at my new school. And speaking of school, on my first day there, I run into the Crimson Chin himself, before meeting my favorite Persona character, Vulgar Boy. And with him, I make my way to school. Except it's not a school, it's a castle, and we get captured. And you pretty much know what happens from here. Diddy tries to eliminate Ryuji, and I awaken to a persona and fight these Pyrojacks. However, because our sin isn't from the Devil Arcana, I can't use him. So I have to defeat these pumpkins with my basic attack. Then with the help of Kitty, shout out Kitty, me and Ryuji finally escape the castle. But it's already pretty late by the time we get to school, so Kawakami is pretty upset, but it'll buff. Then the next morning, I meet another favorite of mine, student with ribbon and hair. But because I can only do Oya's social link, I won't be seeing much of her. For story reasons, me and Ryuji enter the castle once again, and here's where the tutorial comes into play. So I learn about ambushes, safe rooms, and gun safety. But I also learn about all-out attacks. Normally this will be fine, but I'm forced to use Arsene, so I immediately failed my challenge. But because my last video flopped majorly, I kinda need this one, so I'm just going to ignore it and move on. Then, after collecting enough evidence to shut down the party, we decide to leave. That is what I would have said if we didn't run into Yandere Dev himself. And to escape, I need to defeat these bisexual unicorns. But it's a scripted battle, so I wipe out. And this causes Ryuji to awaken to his persona, Captain Kid. And now starts the first mini-boss of the game. Eligor will start off by summoning 2 bicorn, which, lucky for me, are weak to Ryuji's electric magic. But unlucky for me, they take him out on the first turn. Then Morgana, and then me. So running it back, instead of targeting just one bicorn, I hit them both and manage to take out one. Then on my next turn, the other one goes down. And so does Ryuji, but it doesn't matter anymore because Morgana can take care of Eligor with no issues. Then after escaping, I agree to help Ryuji take down Kamoshida, which starts the Chariot social link. But luckily rank 1 gives me nothing of value, so yeah. I can also now unlock bonus content, I say with a big toothy grin on my face. Anyway, to confront Kamoshida, we need cold hard evidence that he's a certified gooner. So we ask around the school, and yeah, that got us nowhere. But then an American confirms that Kamoshida is gooner pilled. Also, Mishima confirms the other things, which I would say, but YouTube. Now, even though we know what's going on, we really can't do anything about it. Or can we? Because Morgana tells us we can make him confess all his sins if we steal his treasure. But it might end him, so we put it on the back burner for now. That is until this happens. So now we all confront Hisoka, and he suspends us. So all we can really do now is change his heart. But because this happened, now An wants to help us get back at him. But we say no, and she gets kidnapped anyway. Then after witnessing this thing, she awakens to a persona, and we have to fight Belphegor. Belphegor is weak to fire, so with An we can do an all-out attack. Then with Joker we get a lesson in gun safety. As for Mona and Ryuji, they can't really do much, but I guard with Ryuji because he's weak to wind. So with 2 more all-out attacks, he's finished. Now if on the team, I start her social link. And like Ryuji's, it doesn't give me anything, so it's not really going to affect the challenge. But what will affect things is Morgana's social link. But for now, it just lets me make tools, so I'm banning the creation of tools. I also forgot to mention Igor's social link, but it just gives me persona slots, so it's nothing game breaking. Now before I can start this palace, the game forces me to interact with Takemi, which is pure evil, because if you watched my content before, you know I love 2 things: older women and men, mostly men. But I got through the Devil's Temptation without starting her social link. So now onto the infiltration of the palace.
But damn!
Now before doing anything in the palace, the game forces me to fuse a persona. So I take this time to make Incubus, and I kid you not, this will be my persona for the first 3 palaces. Speaking of palaces, as to not bore you, the viewer, I'm only going to be talking about the mini-bosses, starting off with the Archangel. The Archangel will charge up, attack, and then compose himself in that order, mainly because this fight is a tutorial on how to guard. So it's not hard, but the problem is that Joker can't really do anything but lower its defense with Incubus, and I get unlucky with it attacking Ryuji 2 times in a row. And then Morgana because he's a little bitch. I am so sorry, that was really harsh. Anyway, I managed to finish it off and grab the first will seed after this. By the way, this is an unofficial rule, but I'm challenging myself to grab every will seed in the game. So speaking of that, let's talk about the mini Mara fight. Actually, I'll just show you. Enjoy.
Persona! Go down! With a persona! Captain Kid!
Round! Nice going, Skull!
Center the board!
Finish up!
We do this now.
Okay, guys.
Yeah! Let's go, Captain!
Round! Nice going, Skull! This'll end!
Silk them back!
The final 2 mini-bosses are both Elagors, and this time they're weak to Ryuji's electric magic. They can also be put to sleep with On and Joker, so they're not anything to really worry about, and with both of the keys you get from them, you can cross the bridge and make it to the treasure room. Now all that's left to do is send out the calling card and take down Kamoshida's shadow. For this fight, I gave myself the Breeze Ring and Morgana the Crystal of Lust for him to use the move Diorama. And from here, the fight is pretty normal. He'll use Volleyball Assault, a move that hits 1 to 3 times. Then after a small chunk of damage is dealt, he'll eat out of his iconic Cum Chalice, so you gotta smash it so he can no longer heal. But the worst move he has is called Lustful Slurp. You know, the one where he has that weird T-posing On in his mouth? Because this raises his attack, as you can see. But after getting rid of his Chalice o Cum, he'll ask Mishima to serve a ball for him. So if you were paying attention during the Archangel fight, you'll know the guard here. Then he'll send out a Miner in a bunny outfit, but luckily she's weak to everything, so we can easily skip this part. Now from here, you're meant to steal the crown off the top of his head, but just like in my last Persona 5 video, shameless plug, he keeps catching Ryuji. Now during this phase, he'll only use Golden Knife, and with Tarunda, it only deals around 50 HP per hit, so I don't have to waste moves healing as much, but I'm still on the verge of running out of SP, and by the time Ryuji is caught again, I'm already close to beating him. So with a few more blows from Ryuji, Shadow Kamoshida went down. We nabbed the treasure, watched the silly little cat, and then escaped the palace. Now all we can do is wait, and my god, Persona 5 without social links is boring. It's almost like the game is meant to be played with them. I mean, yeah, sure, I can hit balls like Shinada and chow down on hamburgers, but I really don't need to because Oya's social link is one of the few that doesn't require any social stats to complete. So for now, I just work out in my room to increase my hit points. Now you might be thinking, why not go to the gym? And well, it's locked behind Ryuji's social link, so I won't be able to visit most places in the game, which kinda sucks. But what doesn't suck is that Kamoshida admits to being a gooner. All the while, Buddy in the background is bugging out. But for a job well done, we decide to have a feast. And here's where Morgana says his iconic line.
Bees?
I don't know why, but this is the highlight of this game for me. But here's where we also come up with our group that makes people confess their sins. And I just so happen to have the perfect name for us. Also, remember how I said Persona 5 loves its automatically starting social links? Well, the game forces me to start Mishima's link. And for starting the Moon social link, I get backup party member EXP, which I guess it isn't broken, but it's still too useful for my liking. Also, speaking of social links, if you continue to ignore Sojuros for long enough, the game will just automatically start it. But again, it has no rank 1 benefits. Then, after getting kicked out of our hideout, Morgana tells us about mementos. And here we fight the shadow of Nakanohara. Now, the Obarion that he turns into has Sledgehammer. And for how early it is in the game, it's a pretty powerful move. The best way to win this fight is to put it asleep with On and Joker and have Morgana and Ryuji land technical hits on it. And even though On goes down, it only has one more hit left in it before Ryuji finishes it off. And just like that, the shadow stops being your average idol fan. Now, before he goes, he asked us to look into a guy named Madarame. But it's not like the pupil of this famous artist is just going to fall right into our laps, right? Well, I'll be damned. Now, before we can meet up with Yusuke, the game forces me to start a social link with Dr. Maruki. Now, that in itself wouldn't be a problem. But what is a problem is that it also forces me to do rank 2 of its social link, giving me Detox X, a really good move, but it very much breaks the idea of this challenge. But there's nothing I can do about it. So we meet up with Yusuke and ask if Madarame is evil, but he retorts with the iconic finger wag of shame and tells us to get lost. But instead of getting lost, we head inside Madarame's palace. But we don't know that he's evil yet, so we hold off until we gather more info. Then we meet Peak Fiction. Peak Fiction, everyone. The next day we meet up with Nakanohara, and he pretty much tells us everything we need to know to finally tackle Madarame's palace. Now, everything in this palace was going fine up until we reached a roadblock, and the only way to open this gate was to unlock the super special secret door in Madarame's Shake Shack, which we do, but then this starts a mini-boss that me and Ryuji have to tackle alone. Now, the worst move it has is Skullcracker, because it has a chance to confuse. Also, it lands an unlucky critical hit, go figure. My next attempt goes better because it only lands that move a couple of times, so I'm able to drain the rest of its life out of it. Then Madarame gets caught in a lie, but it's not even a good lie. Buddy fumbled majorly. Anyway, after that, On, Kitty, and Yusuke fall into the palace. So now we kinda gotta go now that a non-Persona user is in the palace, but it's okay, because he becomes a Persona user, and this starts my pain and agony. The Tengus are weak to ice, so they're not the hard part. But the Impondatra is another story, because he hits like a goddamn freight train. But if you don't get rid of the Tengus in time, they become a nuisance by spamming Sukukaija to raise their accuracy and evasion. So Yusuke will most likely miss them. I managed to get through it by knocking all the Tengus down and then using Miragi with On to make them all one-shot. Then I was lucky enough to land Bufu on all of them with Yusuke. As for the Impondatra, it comes down to a 1v1 with it and Joker, where I just spam life drain to win. Now, even though we had to escape, at least we gained a new teammate. Anyway, enough stalling. Let's talk about the fight you've all been waiting for, the Arahabaki fight. Now, Arahabaki is weak to wind and nuke, and seeing as I got an Atom Ring in this palace, I have 3 party members who can strike its weakness. Also, it can be put to sleep, so it should be easy, right? No, it's not. If Buddy lands a flash bomb, you can bet Morgana and On are goners. Actually, I got pretty close on my first try until another flash bomb landed. Then my next attempt was better, with everyone missing the first flash bomb. Then after 3 all-out attacks, On and Yusuke fall, and that just left me and Mona to tag team it. I would put to sleep with Joker, so it would miss its attack window. Then Morgana would strike its weakness, so everything was fine, until another flash bomb took out Morgana. So it was up to me to finish it off to get the final Will Seed to receive the Crystal of Vanity, an item that nullifies weaknesses, so it's really necessary for the Madarame fight. Speaking of the Madarame fight, I still hate it from my last video. Another shameless plug. Mainly because Madarame will target your party's weaknesses. You would think that the smart idea would be to take out the eyes first, but the mouth can straight up eliminate a party member, so I go for it first. He also has a move called Artist Grace that makes a teammate weak to all attacks, but you can do the same thing to him. And because of how much damage you deal, this causes the first phase of the fight to end. And even though this phase is way easier, you can still get unlucky and lose here thanks to the clone striking a weakness and going twice, or sometimes sometimes 3 times in a row. But you can easily get the upper hand in this fight by stacking baton passes to eliminate the clones. And because the clones are gone, Shadow Madarame will create more up until they start appearing with status ailments, to make them even easier to get rid of. So I mainly let my teammates handle the clones and use Life Drain with Joker on the Shadow, since it is kind of the strongest move I have. But what really does big damage is baton passing to Yusuke to use Giant Slice. So after whittling down his health, I finish him off with a rampage from Ryuji. Then the Alzheimer's patient starts rattling off about a dude in a black mask, but we really don't care, so we just grab the loot and skedaddle away. After this, I get to rank 3 with Morgana. That gives me the ability follow up, so from this point on, he's banned from the party. Sorry kitty, I don't make the rules. Wait, anyway, second verse same as the first. I eat some burgers, practice my Shinada skills, focus on my gains, and find out that Kawakami is a maid. Sadly, this information will not be used in this run. But do you want to know what else won't be used in this run? Kasumi's social link. Then after that, Madarame pisses himself on national TV, and everyone's like, ew, that's disgusting, so he gets sent to a police hospital to never be seen again. After this, I unlock Kichijoji, and here's where you can play darts to boost your teammate's baton pass, as well as it has a temple, and by setting there, my SP increases. Also, I can't use the jazz bar because it's locked behind the social link. Speaking of, the game forces me to automatically start said social link. Also, who could forget?
Oh, am I mistaken? I thought I heard something about delicious pancakes. No matter. Well, see you tomorrow.
Now let me ask you a question. Who would win between these two? An ace detective or a high school girl? If you chose the latter, then you'd be correct. Because Makoto finds out you're a part of the Phantom Thief, Yakuza 4. So she wants us to take down a mafia boss. But we have no information to work off of, so with my massive brain I figure out who would have the best source of information about a mafia boss. Oya, because she's a journalist. Now right off, the game tells us 2 things about her. That she stinks, and that she's an alcoholic. So exactly my type. But we're not here to spit fire game just yet, because we need information on Junior Kaneshiro, like his name, Junior Kaneshiro. So after selling Mishima's soul to the devil, we enter the palace, only to find out we can't enter it yet. So the next day, we call useless Makoto useless, and to prove her usefulness, she gets kidnapped by Kaneshiro's goons. No, not the type of goons you all are, but when we save her, we also make Kaneshiro mad. And when Kaneshiro's mad, he spends a lot of money, and he doesn't like losing money. And I can agree with him on that because I recently made some poor financial decisions myself. But anyway, now that we owe Tinky Winky some money, we can enter his palace. Now this is my favorite palace in the game for 2 reasons. The first being that I can completely skip the final part of the palace just by googling the codes, and the second reason being that this palace really lets you abuse ailments. For example, the palace starts off with you fighting 2 waves of Onis, something that would be really hard to do, but thanks to Incubus's Dream Needle and Ryuji's ability to shock, both waves go down quite easily. Then Makoto awakens to her tricycle and starts another fight with 2 Onis and a purple Oni whose name I forgot. But it's weak to nuke, so Makoto takes it down, and as for the other 2 Onis, well, third verse same as the first. It doesn't have the same ring to it, but that's what happens. And now it's time for the third palace's infiltration. Also, this palace introduces showtime attacks. So if you ship Sonic X Goro Majima, I have some good news for you. As for the mini bosses, first is the blue Oni, because again I forgot its name, but it's weak to electric attacks, and it can be put to sleep. So after we grab the key from it, we face the Owl Oni again. Yeah, Ryuji's shock wins us another fight. Up next is the Kin Key fight. I remembered its name because it's funny. But the other 2 also show up to make this fight way easier, because now I can use baton passes to my advantage. Also, Ryuji can shock, did I mention that? Now all that's left is the Cerberus guarding the final will seed, and I just put him to sleep before he has a chance to attack, and I let Yusuke deal with the rest. And now I can get arguably one of the best accessories in the game, the Crystal of Gluttony for the move Maracuja to raise my party's defense. So now all that's left is to take down Kaneshiro. For the first phase of the fight, he starts off in his iconic Piggytron, and I remember this fight being a lot easier before, but I guess that's a side effect of not doing Mishima's social link. Other than his super VIP form, which you can stop by giving him a rare item, he has a move called Missile Party that of course Yusuke is weak to, but his most annoying move by far is Fear Gas. It rarely affects Joker because of Detox, but my other party members aren't so lucky. But once he's out of Piggytron, it's a whole nother story, because he'll summon 2 guards to block attacks that target him, but the guards as well as Kaneshiro can be affected with ailments such as shock and sleep. So yeah, they're fairly easy to take out. Then for his final gambit, he makes it rain, but he only does this once before running out of money. And then I finish Kaneshiro off with a Showtime attack from Makoto and Ryuji. And from his treasure, we get Robux or something. So now on the free time. Now this free time is different because I can finally spit my fire game and pull Oya. I mean start Oya's social link. Also Lala-chan is here, and I better see some thank you Lala-chans down in the comments or else. Anyway, my free time now consists of darts and temple during the day, and Oya and working out in my room during the night. But I do remember about mementos, so I go there to upgrade my will seeds. I'll tell you more about them when I use them. Now you might be thinking, why are you doing mementos just now? And my answer to you is, Oya, listen, don't underestimate what I do for an older woman. But in order to continue her social link, you have to beat up this Take Minakata. And yeah, I just beat him up the same way I've been beating other things up. I mean, if it isn't broken, don't fix it, am I right? I get a text message that the average grandmother would give their life savings away for. But I'm not like that, because Morgana probably wouldn't let me do that since he doesn't let me do a lot of things. But they know I'm a part of the Yakuza 4. Or should I say Yakuza 6, the Song of Life now. Anyway, the scammer wants me to steal the heart of a Futaba Sakura. So with my expert level deduction skills, I concur that this Futaba Sakura is Boss's daughter. I know this because they share the same last name. So what better way to repay Sojiro's kindness than for me to stick my nose into his private life? He didn't like that. But that confirms that Futaba is his daughter. So again, what better way to repay my kindness than for me and my 5 other Yakuzas to break into his house and force him to tell us that his daughter is mentally trapped in her own palace due to her mother's death. God, I love being morally correct. Anyway, for Futaba's palace, I finally get to upgrade my persona from Incubus to Andras. So now I can finally do more than just put enemies to sleep. And I would show you how good it did against the first mini-boss, but Ryuji stole the show with his ability to shock. But I did at least get one good hit in there. After that came the Mott fight, but luckily this is an SMT3. So instead of continuously adding turns to itself, it instead turns my teammates into rats. But it also summons a llama that's weak to ice and nuke to make this fight a little easier. Also thanks to Jose, shout out Jose, I have the Champions Cup that adds the effects of Diorama and Tarukaja combined into one. But nothing really dangerous happens during this fight, and halfway into the palace I drop my Andros for a Lilum. I also give her Aguilau for an upcoming fight. Well, it's not going to be upcoming for you because I'm going to be talking about it right now. That being the Alliot fight. She's weak to fire, so it probably would have been a better idea to bring On with me instead of Yusuke, who just laid there, but it worked out in the end. Also, Volt Guardian helped out a bunch by being a cheaper version of Marakuja that also blocks one attack. But Lilum hard carried this fight while Ryuji and Makoto healed. But now we get the Crystal of Wrath. I don't think I ever used this one, but I still got it. Futaba's palace is really quick, so now all I have to do is send out the calling card and take down her mom cat monster thing. You start off the fight by dealing pure dookie damage, so you might be wondering, how do you actually damage it? Well, if you remember what I said about the Marie fight in my Persona 4 video, damn, I feel like a real YouTuber now with all these shameless plugs. Subscribe. This fight is more or less an interactive cutscene because Futaba will accept her shadow, and from there if you answer the voice prompts correctly, Futaba will put up shields to reflect attacks that deal massive damage to the cognitive monster. All I gotta do is not get knocked out, which is easier because of how much health I got. My party members on the other hand, not so much, but after a few more hits we finish off the cognition and save Futaba. Yeah, I can't really add that much more to this fight. Futaba has a really easy palace, unlike the next one, but before that, let's just say I pulled Oya. Like, I had that shit locked down frame 1. Now, most people would say that they can fix her, but not me. because a true man will accept her the way that she is. Man, I need to touch grass. But after that, I managed to complete her social link, so my main objective is like half complete, but now my free time just consists of temple runs and hanging setups. Also, the game forces me once again to start another social link. So now, because of it, Futaba will now randomly give buffs to my party. Now it's time for the Hawaii vacation, baby. Sorry, wrong game. The Hawaii vacation, baby. And during this trip, the principal of the school gets hit by a car. RIP to Mid. And what a cute animation of a plane. Surely there's nothing wrong going on with it, but when we get back, everything weird starts happening, because people really want us to go after this Okumura guy, and this may or may not lead to an internal conflict where we spend a week looking for a cat. But at least we get Haru. Now, Okumura had the potential to be one of the best palaces in Persona 5, but other than its aesthetic, everything sucks ass. Like, first off, you have to fight worker robots to use the elevator. The first one is pretty easy, it's weak to nuke attacks, so it's not that hard to get an all-out attack. But the next guy is weak to wind, but because I didn't have Morgana or any wind magic, it made this fight more difficult than it needed to be. I did manage to beat it by using air cannons, you know, that item that deals 50 HP of wind damage, and by striking the worker bot's fire weakness, then baton passing to Haru for her to use triple down. Then with one final all-out attack, it was all over. And as for the final big guy, he's weak to psychic damage, and because I still had Andros, me and Haru cleaned house during this fight. And it's after this, I finally got a fusion alarm so I could create a Magarula skill card. So better late than never. Now, as for the next gimmick, you have to break these machine parts and walk over them. But there's a time limit to make it way more annoying than it has to be. Also, around this part, my game started crashing, so I'm sorry, but I sadly had to let John Yakuza go. So no more test footage of the game, like a Dragon Kiwami, Ishiken Yakuza The Song of Life, in Hawaii. Then after this segment, you fight like 3 waves of worker bots, but they're all weak to ice. I mean, the point of this fight is to show how overworked and tired they are, so I mean, I guess it's pretty accurate. Finally, it's the iconic Okumura maze, and all my homies hate the iconic Okumura maze. But here you fight Melchizedek for the final will seed. And I'm kinda stupid, I know, but I kept trying to put it to sleep so that I could get technical hits off of it. But he's weak to wind. So yeah, that one was on me, but that just made my second attempt at the fight all the easier. So now with the crystal agreed, I found the treasure, sent the calling card out, and yeah, let's get this over with. But surprisingly, I managed to do this in my first attempt. So if that doesn't deserve a subscribe, I don't know what does. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that one. The first 2 waves are nothing special. They're weak to fire and ice respectively. Now the third wave was where I had to bring out Haru to triple down after striking their weakness with Makoto. As for the 4th wave, he uses sacrificial order to make one of them explode next turn. So I use air cannons to stack baton passes so that I could end on Haru to use triple down. And even though it explodes, I still move on to the next wave. I can't remember if it was always like this, but I'm not going to complain. Then for the final wave, I stack baton passes using curse Magatamas, once again ending on Haru to deal the maximum amount of damage I could do. Then Okumura sends out one final big bad robot, and this is just like a normal boss fight. The only thing to look out for is the move Big Bang Challenge, but if you guard it, it doesn't do that much. After you defeat it, Okumura will run out worker bots, and will send out Haru to self-destruct. But if you guard it, you'll be fine. Then with one final hit, Okumura goes down, both in the palace and in real life. But before I talk about that, I go to Mementos to get the Ring of Wrath and the Ring of Greed, and I may or may not have had a run-in with the Reaper.
Iggy, get out of here! He's still alive!
So you can say me and Okumura are one and the same. And because we did send out a calling card, people are blaming us for his passing. But we don't have time to worry about that because we have to prepare for the school festival. Also, Akechi will be there, so surely the actual detective that's been suspicious of us for the entire game won't catch us. And he caught us. But it's fine because we made a deal with him. If we steal Sai Niijima's heart, he'll forget everything. And because he's such a trustworthy guy, we take him up on that offer. Now, Sai's palace is all about gambling. Anyway, I really have nothing much to say about Sai's palace. Like, I do make the goat Pazuzu, but the hardest fight in this palace was the ball fight for the final will seed. Mainly because Yusuke got clapped from the get-go, and Makoto and Haru soon fell after. But yeah, then Ball pretty much took himself out, and I grabbed the Crystal of Envy for myself. But I do want to talk about the battle arena, because I specifically gave Pazuzu Mazionga for it. So first up were two Ganeshas that kept going for Rebellion and Miracle Punch, and just like Ball, they took themselves out. Next up were three Ragda, and they're weak to electricity. So now on to Thor, and he starts off by charging, and yeah. Oh, and if you were wondering who Akechi was in the Yakuza mod, he was the funny 10 years in the joint fellow. But now on to Sai's Shadow. The Niijima fight starts off as normal. You catch her cheating at roulette, causing her to go into her beast mode. From here, she'll choose what magic to use based on your party's weaknesses. But if you use the opposite type of magic she's using, that will deal more damage. So my strategy was to use President's Insight to boost my teammate's magic, then Marakara Karen on that same teammate to reflect the oncoming attack. After doing this 2 or 3 more times, the shadow will land on an almighty space. And buddy, you have to guard to survive her attack. But even though her attacks now do a nutty amount of damage, you can now hit her with everything you got. So with some charged Eogons, Sai's Shadow was defeated, and I was arrested. But then Akechi comes in to say his iconic line,
10 years in the joint made you a fucking pussy.
but I'm actually not dead. So not only did I manage to survive, but we also figure out who the actual big bad is. Shido, the next prime minister. So we gotta do what we do best. And I kid you not, I just summarized an in-game hour into 1 sentence just now. Okay, let's wrap this up because I don't want the video to be over an hour long. So Shido's palace has 5 mini-bosses that you have to fight in order to get to the treasure room. The first up being this Yamata no Orochi, and it will spam Concentrate, Tarukaja, and Rakunda, then attack in that order, but it's weak to psychic attacks. So of course, Haru gets targeted first, so I have to resort to taking it down by charging up Eogons from Joker before Yusuke deals it in. Next up is the great and powerful Fornius, and it's weak to electric attacks, but it will also go for Brain Jack to get technical hits off psychic damage. But if I use the same tactic as my last fight, President's Insight with Makoto and attack with Joker, it goes down quite easily. My next fight is with a Hanuman, and it brings along 2 birds. Sorry, I got lazy and didn't want to look up the names, but they're weak to electric attacks. Also they can heal, but at least one pulls the trigger for me, so I just baton pass to Yusuke to deal more damage. Also Bleeding Dry Brush was useful here for absorbing attacks, but this fight was easier mainly because I could use baton passes to raise Yusuke's attack. Then after this, I create Baphomet, and he'll come in handy for inflicting ailments, for example, in the fight for the final will seed, because I was able to constantly freeze the enemy to land technical hits on. So one of the harder fights in this palace turned out to be really simple, and I finished it off with a critical hit from Yusuke for the Crystal of Pride. After that was the Oberon fight, and yeah, he's weak to nuke, and the fairies are weak to psychic, so it was probably the easiest fight so far. As for the Yakuza fight, that's another story. He starts off by knocking out Haru, so that's already not a good sign, but what was way worse was the fact that ailments don't affect him. Also, I was doing a piss worth of damage to him, so I decided to run it back with a different strategy, buffing Haru to attack because she does the most damage, and it worked. Until my whole team was taken out. Luckily, it uses dark attacks, so Baphomet just blocks them. Until after enough damage was dealt and the 4th chairman of the Tojo clan goes down. And you know what time it is. Akechi starts off by making a Cerberus and Kukulin go mad. The Cerberus is weak to ice, so it's not that difficult to take out. However, his Kukulin isn't weak to electric, so it takes a few more hits than the Mad Dog. So now onto Akechi. His first phase is really easy. He'll only target Joker, until he uses Megidolon, but he only uses it twice, so I was able to take care of him pretty quickly. Now his second phase was a lot harder, mainly because he'll target other party members. What's worse is when he starts using magic attacks, because they target the whole party. Luckily Joker can survive this because it's just fire and dark magic. But what I can't survive is a Megidolon, so I had to run it back somehow, and I did that that by replacing Yusuke with Ryuji for Ma Tarukaja, and I made sure Haru had one-shot kill. And holy fuck was that a completely different ballgame. Like, he didn't even use Megidolon in this fight. But I think what really made the difference is the fact that he can no longer strike a weakness with fire anymore. Also, the one-shot kill was doing massive work. Then after the magic phase, he starts only attacking Joker again. So the rest of my teammates had a field day with him. And yeah, RIP to mid, let's go steal Shido's heart. Shido has 5 different phases. The first one you can only attack with magic, so President's Insight and Gambler's Foresight are really good here. Gambler's Foresight raises the party's accuracy and evasion, while also giving the user the effect of concentration for a turn. Also, Ryuji having a better magic attack than Yusuke is more helpful here. So I charge up Haru with Joker, heal with Makoto, and buff with Ryuji. Then I obviously attack with Haru. Then his next phase will come out where he can only be attacked by physical and gun. So his strategy stays the same, I just attack a lot more for Ryuji. Then for his third phase, he can't be attacked with gun. So I go back to charging up Haru. He does have a big piss laser in this form, but you can just guard through it. Now onto the true fight. For this, I go back to my old strategy, charging up Haru, healing with Makoto, and buffing and occasionally attacking with Ryuji. The only thing I gotta look out for is when he uses Heat Riser. But other than that, it's your standard boss fight. Hit him with your most powerful move and whatnot. Now for this final form, he gets roided up because Buddy will spam Heat Riser. So you constantly have to keep your buffs up or you will be defeated. But if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So once again, I stuck to my god tier strategy and it worked. Until it came down to a 1v1 with him and Joker. Here, he would just cycle through 4 different elemental attacks and a physical attack. So I would just charge myself up with President's Insight and hit him with magic. And if my health got too low, I would use a bead to heal. So with one more charged up Augudine, Shido went down. I then grabbed the loot, watched everyone's favorite Ryuji scene, and got Jose to make the Ring of Pride so I can now charge up a party member's physical attack. Now all that's left to do is to face the Holy Grail. But in order to do that, I first need to take down the 4 Archangels, starting with Uriel. Now this fight was pretty quick because I got a critical of Haru and baton passed the Joker to hit the Angel's weaknesses. So on the Raphael. And here's where I busted out my final persona of the run, Nebros, which I got lucky enough to get Debilitate on. Now Raphael is a discount Shido, as in he'll go for Heat Riser a lot. But the reason he's a discount is because he can be critted, so he wasn't much of a problem. Now Gabrielle on the other hand was a bit tougher, because I didn't get any lucky crits. Also she uses light magic so I can't bring out Neberos. But other than Divine Judgment, she's got nothing, so it was fairly simple to knock her out. Finally we have to deal with Michael, and his gimmick is the same as Uriel's, but he has more HP, so it's harder in theory. Now even though the angels do make it easier to baton pass with, they can fully heal him, so I'll have to target them first. But Haru does what Haru does best, and she helped me get rid of them. And Ryuji helped too, and so did Haru. Again. But he does land a Megidolon, knocking them both out, before summoning angels again. But I finished them off with Magion, so all that was left was the angels. So now onto the final fight. Now the Holy Grail is just phase 1, because once you cut the veins, giving it life, you can rack up pretty big damage on it. Like Haru landed an attack that did over 3,000 damage. That's pretty crazy. So the Holy Grail was nothing. After this, Kamoshida's Cum Chalice turns into Yaldabaoth. Now I'm going to do my best to explain what happened here, okay? After a certain damage threshold is met, Big Yaldi over here will bring out a deadly sin that inflicts your party with an ailment. Lust makes you lustful and not attack the boss. Envy makes you jealous and attack your own party, so on and so on. Now the way I took out the deadly sins was with multi-hit attacks, so that I could target Yaldabaoth too. Also Gluttony is by far the worst because it doubles the cost of everything for a turn and then repels physical. My main type of multi-hitting attacks. But Haru, again, has really good magic to help me out with that. Anyway, I was so focused on getting rid of the hands that I barely targeted Yaldabaoth himself, only to use Debilitate on him with Joker. But thanks to the multi-targeting attacks, I was chipping away at him this whole time. So when his charging move came out, I was kinda shocked, but I managed to guard my way through it. Then when it started charging again, I instead took out all the hands, finishing Yaldabaoth off. is what I would have said if a scripted knockout wasn't here. But thanks to the power of all my social links, aka just Oya, I awakened to my ultimate persona and immediately failed the challenge, because Satanael isn't a persona from the Devil Arcana. But if you're willing to ignore that little detail, then so am I. And what do I get as an award? Well, a Valentine's date with Oya, of course. She's no Takemi, but she'll do. Well, I actually get jail time, but let's ignore that part. Anyway, after all that, I get a scene of me riding off into the sun with me and my teammates. And with that, the credits roll. So, can you beat Persona 5 Royal by only completing the worst social link? Nope, no you cannot, because the game forces you to do Igor's, Morgana's, and Sai's social links. You also can't just beat it with Devil Personas either, well I just told you a little bit ago, but I had fun. Persona 5 is a game I love dearly, but the long ass intro always keeps me away from replaying it. So by doing these challenges it gives me a reason to jump back into it. So yeah, if you enjoyed, maybe leave a like and subscribe for new stuff, because it's probably going to be similar to this. But more importantly than that, just remember to have a fantastic day.